Hi guys. All right. So I'm back and we are on lesson 2. This is Graphing Quadratics. And so what we're going to talk about is we're going to graph quadratics. We're going to use the calculator some, but we're going to also talk about domain and range, finding the vertex, which is, we have to find our maximum, our minimum. And then we talked about our x-intercepts and y-intercepts. And we know that our x-intercepts are also our solutions. So we're going to find all of those with the aid of our calculator. So let's just get right into that. Okay, so if you'll notice on the screen, I have a calculator page pulled up. So if you don't have that, go ahead and pause the video and get that pulled up. Get you a calculator or get your calculator software on your computer pulled up so that you can follow along. Okay, because I do want you to practice this. All right, so the first one we're going to do is y equals x squared. So remember we have f1 of x is our fancy way of saying y. So we're just going to type in x squared, okay, and hit enter. Okay, and so we have the graph, and it looks like that, right? And so I want to either sketch that, I want to use some points on there. So let's do Control T so we can get some points on our graph. I'm going to arrow up a couple times so that I have some good points. If you'll notice, 0, 0 is my turning point because on each side of that, my y values are the same. I know that, okay? And so I'm going to plot some points here. 1, 1, at -1, I have a point at 1, and then I have 2, 4. There's 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And at -2, I have a point at 4. Oh gosh, that always pops up. All right, so I'm going to sketch that, okay? Now, it's not pretty on here, and if you're doing it by hand, yours is going to look a little bit better than mine. It won't look much better because I tried it, and it didn't. All right, so that's what it looks like, right? Okay, so if we are looking at this, if we look at this, I'm trying to make this bigger. Okay, if we're talking about domain, remember domain is how wide the graph gets. And in quadratics, the domain is always all real numbers. And so we represent all real numbers with a symbol like this. It looks like a big R with an extra leg on it, okay? But I think on the EOC or the Star Algebra 1 EOC, you will see it will be written out all real numbers. You may see it other ways, but I'm going to represent it both ways, okay? And then we need to talk about the range. Now the range is your y value. So you have to start, remember our notes, we start at the vertex. So here's our vertex right here. And we go up or down. So our graph goes up, right? Okay, it goes up. So I need to know every point on this graph is counted on in our range. And so every point on this graph is greater than 0, right? So our range is y is greater than or equal to 0 because it actually hits 0, right? It touches 0. So it does include that, okay? So we've taken care of our domain and range. Now our vertex, we said our turning point right here was at 0, 0. If you look over here at your table, it's at 0, 0. One way to find that for sure, I'm going to get rid of my table again. Control T gets rid of your table. You can find your minimum. This is how you find your vertex. You do menu, analyze graph, minimum, and remember you click, drag, click, and that gets your vertex, okay? And it's also your minimum. All right, so your vertex is 0, 0. All right, we know that that is our minimum because it's the lowest point, okay? If you remember from your notes, we said the axis of symmetry was x equals the h, and that's from our vertex form of a quadratic. Now, axis of symmetry is always x equals. All right, if you look at this graph, the axis of symmetry is going to be x equals 0 in this case, because right down the middle, it splits that graph in half right at x equals 0. Okay? Now, x-intercepts, where does it touch? It means where does it touch the x-axis? Well, it touches right here at the origin, so my x-intercepts are at 0, 0, right? 0, 0. And then my y-intercepts, again, it touches the origin, so it is at 0, 0. And then my solutions. I only have one. It says solutions, and the S is in parentheses, so that means it could be 1, it could be or 2, or it could be none, you know. Okay, so this one absolutely only has 1 because it only touches the x-axis one time. So the solution is x equals 0 because it touches at 0, or you could show that as 0, 0. Okay, so that is the first problem. Let's do another one. Okay, I'm going to get another graph. So control document gives me another graph, and I'm going to add a graph page, or another page. Add a graph page. Let's graph this one, negative x squared. So we'll do negative x squared plus 2x plus 1. Oh, I forgot my plus. That was almost a disaster. Well, really not a disaster. We could have fixed it. Okay. Oh, wow, that one turned upside down, didn't it? All right. So let's talk about the domain. We said it was always all real numbers. That was from our notes, right? All real numbers. We've had this discussion before. Now, let's do Control T over here so we can find some points to list here. Remember, I'm going to go up just a little bit. Maybe I have to go down. Oh. Where's my turning point? Oh, there's the turning point. If you can see the turning point right here, it's where your y values are the same on both sides of it on your table. So my turning point is at 1, 2. Right here at 1, 2. Okay. So I'm going to plot these points. I have a -1, -2. I'll need to practice these. I need to practice plotting points. And it's 0, 1. And then at 1, 2, there's 1 up 2. And then at 2, 1. And at 3, -2. All right. So then I can sketch this graph. Man, that was bad. It's like I can't even draw this thing. Try it again. Too bad they don't have a tool for quadratic, huh? All right. Okay, so I've used my table, so let's get rid of that one. All right. Let's find our maximum, okay, so I can find out what my range really is. So let's do menu, analyze graph, maximum, and I know it's maximum because it has a high point. The graph has a high point. So I'm going to click and drag across and click. That was a menu, analyze graph, maximum to get to that, okay? So I found out a whole lot of things. So this point is at 1, 2. So that tells me, let me find a different color here. This point right here, that from that point down, I have to go down now, right? Because remember, we start from the vertex and we go up or down. And this time we're going down, right? So this tells me that my y values are less than or equal to, this point is at 1, 2, so it's less than or equal to 2. Okay. All right, so we found the domain and range, and then we already found our vertex. Our vertex was at 1, 2. We did that on our calculator. Okay. We said that it was a maximum. All right, so we've taken care of our vertex and our max. All right, so then axis of symmetry. Let me erase this little arrow here thing that I drew. I'll move it some, I'll draw it some other way. Okay, because I want to draw this axis of symmetry here. See what color I want. I like this purple. All right, so I'm going to draw this axis of symmetry thing. That's not it. I'm going to have to move it, aren't I? That's not going to move. All right, I'm just going to have to draw it. All right, so this is my axis of symmetry right here, right? Right down that line. So notice what that x value is. My x value is what? It's 1, right? So look at my x value right here. My x value is what? It's 1. So that's why it's always x equals that, okay? So my axis of symmetry is x equals 1. Okay, so we have that, right? So my axis of symmetry is x equals 1. That's the line, x equals 1. All right, so now we need to do our x-intercepts. Well, you know, we can use our calculator for that because it looks like they're not crossing at pretty points. So let's do that. Menu, analyze. Do you remember how? What's the next one? You're right, it's 0. And then we're going to click, drag, click. All right, we'll move that one over here so we can see it. Let's do the other one. Menu, analyze graph, 0, click, drag, click. All right. All right, so our x-intercepts are these. They are at negative 0.4140 and 2.410. Those are coordinates. Those are ordered pairs, right? And then let's see our y-intercept. How am I going to find my y-intercept? It looks like it crosses right there, doesn't it? So let's find that. Menu, analyze graph. If we hit, let's hit trace. Graph trace will automatically go to your y-intercept. 0, 1. 0, 1 is your y-intercept. You could see that on there pretty easy, but sometimes if it crosses at a not a pretty point, then you can do that. So, and then for our solutions, we know that our solutions are the same thing as our x-intercepts, right? So our solutions are x equals negative 0.414. I'm going to put a 1 in the middle there. And x equals 2.41. Not too bad, right? All right, y'all. There's a second page on this, but the video is going to be too long, so I'm going to stop this one and return on the second one. Guess what? Y'all are going to get to do some on your own. All right, see you in a sec.